Welcome to another Q&A video. Hey everybody, my name is Julie. I was born blind and I was also born with dwarfism. So that means that I am only 3 feet tall, and that's the height of an average 2-year-old, just to kind of give you an idea. I have some really fun questions that we're going to answer. Well, I'm going to answer today. And today the topic is dwarfism. And specifically, I'm going to be talking all about what it was like when I was born. There's some questions here surrounding my birth story and how my parents found out I had dwarfism, all that kind of fun stuff. So, yeah. And I also wanted to let you know, I did mention as well that in addition to being born with dwarfism, I was also born blind. But my parents didn't find out that I was blind until I was about a year and a half old. So I'm going to save that story for another video. And I'll tell you all about that another day. But today we're just talking about dwarfism. Okie dokie. All right, so let's get started with question number 1. Okay, so someone asks, are you the only little person in your family? And my answer is yes, I am. So dwarfism is genetic, but oftentimes people with dwarfism are born to average size parents. And that's just one of those mysteries. Nobody really knows why that happens. So that's what happened in my case. I was a surprise to my parents. They had no idea that I was going to be little because they're both average sized. And as far back as we can go in my family tree, we don't know of anybody else who is little in my family. So, yeah, I'm the only one. I have a brother, and he is actually pretty tall. I think he's about 6 feet tall. So that was really fun when I was a kid because, even up to when I was a teenager, like I was 3 feet tall and he was 6 feet. So he would carry me around, and we just had a lot of fun kind of laughing about our height differences. I also have some family members, like some uncles who are super tall, like 6'4". I don't even know. But my point is, there are some really tall people in my family, but genetically, I drew the short straw. But I'm fun. Now, if I had kids, there is a really good chance that my kids would be born with dwarfism, but there is also a possibility that they could be born just average size. So that's one of those interesting things too. You never know what would happen. Okay, question number 2. Did your parents know before you were born that you were going to be little? Great question. They did not know. I was born in 1984, and way back then, it was not very common for expecting mothers to have ultrasounds. So, I asked my mom if she had an ultrasound when she was pregnant with me, and she said no. She doesn't even remember ever having one. And it wasn't really done back then. Maybe if there was something going on that they really needed to look at and find out what was happening, they might do an ultrasound, but I'd say it was pretty rare. So my parents never knew. If they had done an ultrasound, they would have been able to see that I was little, but because they didn't, it was just ta-da, surprise. And they didn't even know I was going to be a girl. So they got a double surprise the day I was born. Next question. Were you an extra small baby when you were born? No. The answer is no. I was pretty average, especially when we're talking about baby weight. I was somewhere around 7 pounds, I think, and that's pretty typical for an average baby who's born. I don't remember how long I was when they measured me, lengthwise. I might have been a hair shorter, but honestly, I don't know. But typically, like when you're just talking about size and baby weight, I was pretty typical. Okay, next question. How did your parents find out that you had dwarfism? So I mentioned this a second ago, but they didn't find out until the day I was born, and they did find out that day though. And I'm going to tell you some details about the day I was born so that you can kind of have some context and hear the story. So get ready for some story time. Okay, so what had happened was, um, sorry, I'm being so goofy. Okay, so when my mom went into labor with me and she was at the hospital, at some point, the doctor realized that I wasn't facing the right way to be born. Um, I think I was actually trying to come out feet first, and that's not a very safe way to be born. It's pretty dangerous. And so I think they waited for me to turn for a little bit to see if I would turn the right way, but I never did. So I ended up being born by a C section. Raise your hand if you were a C section baby. Leave me a comment. Woohoo! Yay! We need to have a little club or something. Um, not really. But yeah, so I was a C section baby. And looking back, I think my mom has said her theory is that I probably didn't turn the right way in the womb because just because of the way my body was proportioned, I was a little bit different than the average baby. So, like, I don't know how it all happened, but there was some reason that I wasn't able to turn the right way. Okay. So when I was born, like I just said a minute ago, I was an average sized baby, but the doctor noticed that my arms and legs were shorter than average, compared to an average baby. He could tell my limbs just looked different. They were shorter compared to the rest of me. And my mom has told me many times about her experience and what it was like the day I was born. And her story is that after I was born, the medical team kind of acted a little funny. They started acting strangely. And they took me somewhere else and they wouldn't let her see me and they weren't answering her questions. And she was really worried and scared and she was asking like what's happening, what's wrong with my baby. And she just kept saying, I want my baby back because they wouldn't give me back to her. So, she's like, I want my baby back. Hey, do you guys know that Chili's commercial from years ago? It goes, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. Chili's baby back ribs, barbecue sauce. Anyway, um, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you missed a great commercial. And actually, I'm gonna try to find it and link it in the description if you want to watch it. So check that out. Okay, this concludes our commercial break for today. Let's get back to our story. Um, so, so I was born. The doctor realized that I had dwarfism because he saw my arms and legs that were shorter. And I'm pretty sure he shared this news with my dad first. And then when my mom was recovered from her C section, and after a little while, the doctor went in to talk to my mom. And she tells this story about the way he told her the news. And basically, he said something like, well, you have a beautiful baby girl, but she's just going to be short. And my mom just kind of laughed and said, well, how on earth can you know that? What are you talking about? And the doctor said, well, do you know what a dwarf is? And my mom's response was, uh, you mean like somebody who performs in the circus? Because really, that was her only reference point. She had never met a little person in her everyday life at this time. So she didn't even really know anything about dwarfism or little people. And the only thing she knew is that sometimes little people perform in the circus. So that's what she said. And the doctor said, yep, your daughter is going to be a dwarf. And of course, she was shocked and she had so many questions because she's like, well, her dad and I aren't tall. We're average size. How can this happen? So I can only imagine how overwhelming that was for my parents. And they probably had so many questions and so many concerns. And, I bet they were really worried about what my future was going to be like and how hard it was going to be for me to be little. And My mom talks about it sometimes, and she's told me the story about how worried she really was. And my favorite part of her story, though, is that there was one day she was still in the hospital. She had just had me, and she was kind of recovering and just trying to process what was going on. Because, I mean, it's just such a shock. So she's trying to sort through all the information the doctor had given her, and she had so many concerns, and she was really worried about me and what my life was going to be like. And there was one day where she was in the hospital, and she had her Bible with her, and she was just praying and crying out to God and asking him, like, what are you doing, and what are you saying right now, and what is all this going to mean? And she was just kind of praying for me, and she was just asking God for help, basically. And she opened her Bible, and it fell open to the book of Jeremiah, which is in the Old Testament. And she kind of laughs and says that's not a book that she would typically go to automatically for encouragement, because the book of Jeremiah has a lot of heavy stuff in it, and sometimes it can be really hard to read. So it's not a book that she would just sort of gravitate to when she's looking for comfort and encouragement. So, yeah, so anyway, her Bible opened to Jeremiah chapter 32, and her eyes just went to verse 27. And I'm going to read that for you. So it says, I am the Lord, the God of all the people of the world. Is anything too hard for me? And that's in the New Living Translation, in case you're wondering. And as soon as she read that verse, she knew that that was the Lord talking straight to her heart. And she was just so encouraged, and she just knew it was the voice of God for her, directly answering her prayers and her questions. And she knew everything was going to be okay, and I was going to be fine. But in her mother's heart of love and compassion, she thought that the Lord was saying that he was going to heal me, and that I wasn't going to have dwarfism, and I would grow up to be a tall, average sized person and just not have any issues with that. But over time, over the years, she gradually realized that what God was actually saying was that his grace was going to be so powerful in my life that he was going to give me the strength and the supernatural ability to overcome the challenges that I would deal with and face in my life. And you know what? I'm here to tell you that it is absolutely true. I can testify to that in my life. There are so many times when I know God has been with me, and he's given me the strength to overcome and to do what I need to do. And I've actually adopted Jeremiah 32:27 as my life verse. Some people pick a scripture that they say like represents their life story or is meaningful to them in some way, and they say, that's my life verse. So mine is that one, because whenever I read it or hear it or think about it, I just remember again how the Lord is so good, and his grace and his strength is so helpful and powerful, and that I can do everything I need to do through him. And one of my other favorite scriptures is from 2 Corinthians 12, and it says that God's power is made perfect in weakness. And friends, that is so true. It is so true in my life. I'm here to tell you. So yeah, that's my little sermon for the moment. Little testimony. You know what? When I was born, the doctor told my parents a bunch of things that they didn't turn out to be true for me. For example, one of the things the doctor told my parents was that I would probably never walk. And that just wasn't true. I did walk. I did start walking later than an average baby. I think I was closer to 2 when I started walking, but I did walk, and I still walk to this day. So, and there were several things that the doctor said that it wasn't super optimistic with my life and my situation, and what my life would be like, what I'd be able to do. But it's so crazy, you guys. It's just amazing over the years. I've been amazed to see what God has been able to do through my life and what I've been able to accomplish with his help. So I just want to encourage you, don't put limits on yourself, on your children. Maybe you have a child who has special needs, or whatever your situation is, don't put limits on what you or your children, your family, whoever it is, don't put limits on yourself or them and what they can do, and what's possible, because all things are possible with God. And with his help, I'm telling you, amazing things can happen. So just keep believing and trusting him and praying and believing and follow him. And you just never know what can happen. So yeah. Hey, let's chat in the comments. Comment below if you have other questions for me, or you have something that you want to share about your story. I would love to know. I would love to chat with you. And I have some other Q&A videos as well, so I'm going to be linking those in the description if you want to go check out more Q&A. And maybe I can do more in the future. So let's just keep chatting. Tell me whatever you want me to know, whatever you want to chat about. I'm ready. I'm excited to connect with you guys today. And hey, if you have something that you want me to pray for you, something to pray about, please feel free to leave that in the comments as well. And if you see somebody who has a prayer request, do us a favor and please pray for them too. Well, thank you all for letting me share a little bit of my story with you today. And it's been a privilege to be here with you. And I hope you're doing well and that you have a great day. And I look forward to talking with you again soon.